Let me tell you, there are exactly four things that evolution has to have true in order to be true. And if any one of those things was false, evolution would be false. All four must be true. Evolution says we are a science. And that's where they begin to challenge creationists. They begin to say, aha, see, you are a religion. We are a science. We have scientific evidence to support our view. Therefore, you must believe us because we are credible. You are just a faith. You don't have any proof. Really? That's what they say. They say we are not, that we as a church are not scientific. They are, so therefore, people must believe them. In order to be true, the following four things must be true again. If any one of them is wrong, evolution is wrong. Number one, the universe needed to start with a Big Bang. Over approximately 5.9 to 6.4 billion years ago, depending upon what author you read, the universe started off as this point of energy that began to slow down and then exploded into all that we know. As it exploded, hydrogen was the first molecule that was created, and through hydrogen, other molecules were created that eventually created what we now know as the universe today. And that if the universe did not start as a Big Bang, then evolution isn't true. Number two, that the universe is billions and billions of years old. In order for single-celled organisms to evolve into beings like you, it takes a very long time. And if the earth isn't billions and billions of years old, then there's not enough time for people to evolve. They must have been created. Make sense? Number three, life had to begin by accident. We should be able to take inorganic matter and create life. That has to be true in order for evolution to be true. If we cannot create life that way, and life cannot begin by accident, then evolution is not true. And number four, mutations must be able to make better animals or better creatures. That's the process of evolution, according to evolutionists, that we mutate and that our mutation actually improves what we are and where we're going, and then we become better and more complex, and we develop things like 6 fingers and maybe 3 eyes, one in the back of our heads. I don't know. Whatever is the next evolutionary step, they say it's going to come through mutations. Okay? So let's take a look at some of the proof that the evolutionists give in order to back up what they say. You ready? First question is this. Is the earth old? Evolutionists say it's old. And in fact, they can take you outside and they can point to a star. And they can say, you see that star out there? And all of us would say, yes, because it's out there. We can see it. The light shines, and we know that it's there. They can say that the light is 1 million, that star is 1 million light years away. In other words, that star is so far that it takes the light from that star 1 million years in order to get to planet Earth. Well, we can see the star, can't we? So how old must the universe be? It should be 1 million years, right? If we can see the star and it's 1 million light years away, then the earth should be 1 million years old at least, correct? Well, let's take a look at some of the other evidence. They say this. You see this piece of the Grand Canyon there? They can point to it and say, you see all those layers? That there's actually layers of rock within places around the earth. And then if we dug deep enough into that rock, we can find fossils. There are fossils located in this layer. And we know how old the layer is based upon the fossils that we find there. That in the bottom level we find amoebas. And then in the level just above the amoebas we find more complex animals. And just above that we find fish. And just above fish we find lizards. And just above lizards we find all the way up the evolutionary scale until we get to the highest level of fossils, and then we find humans. So the geological column, they say, actually proves evolution to be true, and that we can date what layer it is based upon the fossils that we find there. Make sense? Number three, they'll point to a rock. And they'll say, look at this rock. This is an old rock. Let me show you how we know. You see, it takes approximately 4.5 billion years to take uranium and and naturally have it decompose into lead. And if I show you this rock, and half the rock is uranium, and half the rock is lead, then it took 4.5 billion years for that half of lead to change from uranium into lead. It's called a half-life. So if I show you this rock, how old must the rock be? If half of it is uranium and half of it is lead, then the rock must be at least 4.5 billion years. So is the earth old or young? According to science, they say that is old. Well, what's the problem? You see, the Bible says, if you take a look at the Bible, and you add up from the 2,000 years that we have had after Christ, and you begin to take a look at the genealogies and add all those numbers together, all those so-and-so begat so-and-so, who had so-and-so, and all those names and numbers, and at this age he had so-and-so, and you add them all up, going backwards, you would calculate that the earth is between 6,000 to 7,000 years. 6 is if everyone was the parent of the person that was their child, or if you allow for generation gaps, like that was actually their grandfather, not their father, then you can add probably no more than 1,000 years. So we're talking about no more than 7,000 years old. So the Bible says that the earth is 6,000 to 7,000 years, but science shows us that the earth is 5.9 billion years old. Who's right? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. They also say that the earth is really, really old, right? Well, what was the second evidence? The second evidence is, can they make life by accident? Can matter that is completely inorganic, has no life in it whatsoever, can it all of a sudden be shocked to create life? Remember, that's what they said. That there was this amazing goo, that in the beginning, this primordial ooze was zapped by electricity, and then an amoeba was created. So someone named Miller down in San Diego, he actually teaches at UC San Diego. If you go there, you might run into him. He actually took, it's called the Miller experiment. He took all the chemicals that he thought was crucial to life. He took carbon, he took oxygen, he took a number of other chemicals that were necessary in order to create the first living cell, and he put them all into this petri dish. And in order to simulate the lightning, what he did was he zapped it with electricity, and then he created amino acids. And from this zapped goo, you have the basic proteins in order to begin life. Amino acids are part of every living cell in every human. So Miller came out in his experiment. We've done it. We have made the beginnings of life. So could life have begun by accident? Miller says, yes, we have the basic building blocks of life. So life can start by accident, and therefore evolution is indeed true. Is it? Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Bible takes issue with that. What does the Bible say? The Bible says that God made man, that God created everything that's living. As we read in Genesis 1:1, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Then in John 1, it says that in him all things were made, and without him was not anything made that was made. Well, wait a minute. Evolution shows us that we can create life by accident. But the Bible says that God made life. Evolution says that this rock is Grandpa. The Bible says the ultimate existence of all life is God. Who is right? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. And our problem seems to be getting bigger, isn't it? Well, let's take a look at the third step. The third step is that mutation should be able to make better creatures. Here's the theory. The theory states that an animal overpopulates an area. Okay? There gets to be too many animals in an individual area. So those animals begin to spread out in order to survive. As they spread out, they have a different diet, they have a different climate, and so that different diet and climate produce gradual changes within the animal. And as those gradual changes occur and the animal adapts to their environment, that produces so many changes and so many minor mutations that eventually you have a whole new animal, eventually you have a whole new species. Going from a chimpanzee into a human. And science says that chimpanzees are 98% related to humans. That there's only 2% of genetic difference between chimpanzees and humans, which means, see, scientifically, they're our closest relative, so we must have been able to evolve from chimpanzees or something related to chimpanzees. Proof. Well, in order to believe what they say, that the earth is so old, and that over gradual periods of time we have evolved, we need to have evidence, don't we? I mean, that's what science is. We need to have evidence of those gradual changes. So science has been, for the last 300 years, looking for what they call the missing links. Links in between humans and apes. And a number of them appear in your scientific textbooks. Discoveries that they have found that they say links humans with animals. Let me show you a few of them. Nebraska Man. Nebraska Man was found in Nebraska. That's why he's called Nebraska Man. Now, Nebraska Man was this tooth that they found, and close to the tooth was a human skull, or at least the top of the human skull. And when they put that tooth into the human skull, it looked like it was more of a monkey than a man. And so here an artist began to draw what Nebraska Man probably looked like. And in fact, this artist was so good, from that tooth and skull, he not only drew Nebraska Man, who's walking there kind of hunched over, but also his wife there to the side. So that's Nebraska Man. Okay? They designed that from a tooth and a skull. Second, they found Piltdown Man. Piltdown Man, they found a skull. The top most definitely looked like a man. But the bottom half of the skull looked exactly like the jaw of an ape. And it so closely relates to the jaw of an ape. Here you can see that this must be some hybrid of man and ape. Right? It's a perfect fit. The jaw fits right into the human skull. What else? They found Neanderthal Man. Now, Neanderthal Man is probably their greatest discovery. Neanderthal Man has huge eyebrows. Okay, their eyebrow ridge is much bigger than that of a normal human being. And if you look around the room, how many of us have these huge hunkin' eyebrows? Well, not too many, right? Not only did he have protruding eyebrows, but also the skeletal structure of Neanderthal Man was hunched over. He had a curved spine, a spine similar to that of a chimpanzee or an ape. So see, science says, this curvature in the spine, this hump, if you will, is an ape learning to walk like a man. And it's a genetic difference so that this is a chimpanzee or ape that is actually going up. And probably his children walked more upright, and his children's children walked even more upright until eventually they started walking like man. So Neanderthal Man became one of their biggest discoveries and probably the most powerful of all evidences for evolution. Last is Cromagnon Man. Lucy, if you will. Cromagnon Man is called Anthropolithecus afarensis. Cromagnon Man was found in Africa, and here you have this skeletal structure that looks very much like a chimpanzee, but it's much bigger than the average chimp. Now, the skeletal structure is very important because not only is it bigger, but if you look, the legs are very different. Let me show you what I'm talking about. As you can see here, this is a little blurry. Let me make it a little clearer for you. There we go. As you can see here, this is the knee joint to this chimpanzee. Okay? Now, this knee joint right here would normally be connected to this femur right here. Now, in most chimpanzees and most monkeys, the knee joint does not look like this. It does not have that kind of a fork in it, which shows a vertical attachment. most knee joints of animals actually crisscross. It makes it easier for them to be able to climb trees. You wonder why you can't climb a tree like a monkey? Well, your knees are not designed that way. Okay? So it makes it easier for them to wrap around. Now this knee joint, though, is not connected as a normal chimpanzee's knee joint would be. It seems to be connected vertically, so that way, like a human's, it is able to support the full body weight of the skeleton. If you look at our skeleton, we have an angled femur that goes right down into our knee, and then our bone structure goes right out. I'll try to do this without making a lot of sound effects. Goes right. Okay, maybe not. Goes right down straight into the ground so that it supports our weight. If it didn't, we'd be walking like this. Okay? So this is a very, very important find for evolutionists. And evolutionists, the moment they found this, began to tally. We have the missing links. We have the missing links. We have proof that, yes, indeed, men did evolve from animals. And since we found the missing links, therefore mutations can create better species, which means evolution must indeed be true. But is it true? What does the Bible say? The Bible says that man was made in God's image. We weren't an accident. That actually, we were specifically designed, far different from any other animal on the planet. That God made us in His image. But evolution says this. You didn't come here because of design. It's all a part of accidental mutations. That you very easily could have evolved into something like Planet of the Apes. That in fact is an example of evolution in process, and therefore you're nothing more than a matter of random events in the universe. Which one is true? Here I've showed to you their evidence. What they say is the truth, and much of this evidence you will find in scientific textbooks in order to demonstrate that the earth must indeed be old, that we must have been able to mutate, that accident or that life can be started by accident, and therefore you are nothing more than an accident. Do you believe up here what the Bible says? Or are you having difficulty saying, wow, that proof is pretty good? That proof is very good. How in the world can we prove that wrong? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. We have a pretty big problem, don't we? How would you like me to solve that problem? Do you want to hear the answer to this problem? You want me to be able to set things straight?